So Shostakovich's Chamber Symphony, it began life as a string quartet, number 3 in F, which was written, I think, in the late 40s.
Yeah, I think it was 1946, I think. Very quickly, in about a week, he wrote it, actually.
Right, so that would have been at the same time as his 9th Symphony, which was supposed to be this great big victory symphony for the end of the Second World War. And instead of that, we played it recently, he wrote this incredibly trite, really kind of vulgar piece. And I feel like this Chamber Symphony is very much in that mold. Shostakovich's kind of anger and grief is coming out in this sort of really bizarre way. And this quartet was taken by Rudolf Barshai in about 1990. He was a conductor, and it was expanded to include a full string orchestra and 5 wind players. To take a string quartet and expand it like that is, in some ways, it's very simple. And I expect that for you two, your parts would have been largely similar to the quartet version.
Yeah, Ellen, I'm sure you have played this quartet. It's a fantastic piece, as all of his quartets are. He wrote 15 of them. I think often we hear some of his most intimate and inner thoughts in his quartets, more so perhaps than in the symphonic repertoire. So I hadn't played this version, the chamber version at all, and so I was really interested in hearing how it differed and how it worked, because even though it's only for 4 people, it is incredibly powerful in the original. But obviously, with a full string section and the wind soloists, it's going to bring a certain strength and power to it. In addition to that,
I think Shostakovich as well, as a composer, is just such an honest composer. You know, he really puts so much of those inner thoughts and feelings that he had, especially as John, as you say, into his quartet writing. And you know, the titles that he then gave to the movement, the 5 movements then of the Chamber Symphony, the last one being the eternal question, why and what for. And I think at this point we can almost reflect on the same question. You know, going through this pandemic at the moment, you know, everybody's questioning everything that's going on, and that final kind of minute of the performance where it's just so still. And the first violins and solo violin ask these questioning phrases over and over again without an actual conclusion. In a way, it's all kind of left in this kind of ethereal suspension.
I think the most interesting part for me was the end of the 4th movement, and at the end of that, in the quartet, the viola has a very sort of dark and empty solo, which is accompanied by this rhythmic figure on the cellos. And in the chamber version that we played, the solo is played on the bassoon, which I thought was quite interesting. So that's quite a nice sort of effect there.
I think that Rudolf Barshai really has added something. In a way, he's kind of composed this new version as a kind of love letter both to the symphonies and to the quartets. So when I was growing up as a teenager, I had the box set of Rudolf Barshai conducting all 15 symphonies. Absolutely loved it. It's sort of really kind of formative for me. But then obviously he's kind of done that, and you know, he's sort of hungry for more. So he expanded the quartet into like an extra symphony.
And I think as well the colours, the additional colours the woodwinds and the harp offer as well are incredible. It really adds so many more levels to and layers to the performance, I think. And what I find quite interesting as well is that quite often as a string player, you want to sound like a flute, or you want to sound like a bassoon, or I can play it as if, you know, you were a bassoonist. So actually to naturally give the parts to woodwinds soloists kind of works really well and really just really naturally.